Uh, Welcome everyone. Welcome to the second week of the Riesling Box 2.0. We're tasting this guy. It's a black and gold label, 2021 Carl Ehrhard. It's a whole bunch of German words in here. For those of you who speak German, if I'm fucking this up, let me know. Roseneck, Rudesheim, Rheingau, Riesling, Kabinett. A lot of words. We'll go over what all this means. We'll go over how to decipher this label. German labels are notoriously difficult to read. And we'll go over that in a sec, but that's what we are tasting today. In case that you're hearing little like crunchy noises in the back, my foster dog over here just gnawing on a bone, and it seems quite loud to me, but I don't know if it's coming through to you guys. But yeah, I apologize if it's bothering you, but otherwise she'll just be barking. So anyways, she's gnawing on a bone. First and foremost, I also just realized that it is National Riesling Day today. I don't know who the fuck comes up with these national whatever days, but apparently today is a National Riesling Day. So happy National Riesling Day. And here we are drinking some Riesling. Cheers to y'all. You know, little sip of Riesling. God damn it, this one's good. Just a few announcements. Case Club closes tomorrow. So if you want to participate in the Bordeaux Box Case Club, it also has the first four Beaujolais that we tasted. So if you wanted to participate in that, do that now. Get your orders in now, because I will be closing that tomorrow at noon. In 2 days on the 15th, as usual, the invoices will go out for April. I need to wrap that up ASAP, like as in on the 15th. I'm gonna try to, so for those of you who don't know, I am leaving for India on Monday, this coming Monday for 2 weeks. So I'm gonna try to actually pack and process and get all the wines ready before I leave over the weekend, which means I need to wrap up all the enrollment as soon as it comes out. So I will shoot out an email tomorrow as well, but as soon as a invoice comes out, if you are planning on joining us, just go ahead and pay the invoice. If you're not planning on joining us, just shoot me an email and let me know so I can just process that real quick. But it's going to be like a 1-day turnaround this month, just because I just need to get it done. I will hound you and ask you if you're joining or not. And I really don't want to have to do that with everyone. So if you could just help me out and then send me an email and let me know, that'd be great. On that note, because I am going to India, and I wrote this in the initial email that went out this month, but the next 2 tastings, the 3rd and 4th Wednesdays, will be recordings that will be going out to you. So sorry that there won't be any live tasting here. But if you guys are if some of you or many of you are so inclined to, or you think you're going to miss us too much and then you want to have some sort of live thing, I can give one of you a hosting capability, and one of you you guys can come on and drink wine and hang out if you guys want. But I will be in India and I will not be joining. So just letting you know, but you will get a recording from me for the next 2 Wednesdays for the last 2 wines of the month. What else is there? Next month the theme's going to be Campania. So we're going to southern Italy. This is where Pompeii is. This is where Mount Vesuvius is. This is where the really volcanic, minerally white wines, as well as really powerful tannic Aglianico comes from. But yeah, so that's where we're going. So we're gonna taste some coastal southern Italian wine next month. I think that's it. Last but not least, we are donating to Laila's Legacy this month. That is actually a foster dog that I have. If any of you guys are looking for a dog to adopt, there's an incredibly beautiful, cute 9-month-old puppy in my house right now, still available for adoption. Yeah, we're donating to Laila's Legacy. It's a foster through Laila's Legacy. And then donation link is right there in the chat box if you want to donate alongside 6 Foot White Club. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get into the wine? Perfect. All right. Well, for those of you who are joining us now, we're tasting this guy. 2021 Karl Ehrhard, Berg, Roseneck, Rudesheim, Rheingau, Riesling, Kabinett is what we're tasting today. So, where are we today? Where did the map go? There it is. There you go. There's a map of Germany, wine map of Germany, I should say. These are all different kind of a wine region. There's 13 of them, right? Ahr, Mosel, Nahe, Pfalz, Baden, Württemberg. Just give you some little reviews. Basically, as you can see, most of German Riesling or wines production region is really in the southwest, butting up against France. Is basically where the most of the wines in the country come from. Here, as you go northeast, close to Berlin, there is wine being made up here, but these are things like Pinot Blanc, Müller-Thurgau, of that nature. Here, really what Germany is known for, which is Riesling, which is where this right here, right along the Mosel River, as well as a Rhine River that flows through. This is where the Riesling is grown. And then as you go more south to Baden and Württemberg, but particularly Baden, this is where you're going to find German Pinot Noir, Spätburgunder, they call it in Germany. I've said this the first week. Do not sleep on, I know Riesling is what we're talking about this month, but the Pinot Noir, Spätburgunder from Germany is fantastic. It's getting better every year. It is going to become, Germany is going to become more and more of a significant player in Pinot Noir as global warming gets worse and worse. This is just getting too warm everywhere else, but in a really cold continental place like in Germany, it's still proving to be quite promising. So don't sleep on Pinot Noir from Baden and even Württemberg. Check it out. But for this month, for the sake of this month's box, we're really focusing on right here. So last week we're in Mosel, and then Riesling box 1.0 was all from Mosel, right? So this really serpentine river, as you can even see in this picture or in this map, you can see how much it bends and twists and turns. All along this river are some of the steepest vineyards in the world, right up on the riverbank. This is where the world's, arguably the world's best Riesling is grown. And that's where we tasted last week from Materna and Schmidt, those two young women winemakers from the Mosel Valley. And this week, we are going to Rheingau, which is a little bit more south along the Rhine River instead of Mosel River, where along the Rhine River, not as curvy and all of that as that, but nonetheless right along the Rhine River, right along the riverbank on the northern side of the Rhine River is basically where we are. The Rheingau is basically what we're tasting here. Rheingau as a whole, viticulture here dates back nearly 1,000 years. Just like almost everywhere else, and in major winemaking regions in America, in Europe, or Western Europe, I should say, it's really the Romans who brought it to here. So viticulture here dates back almost 1,000 years. In the 19th century, that Rheingau, that little small region, produced wines that were compared or comparable to the first growth Bordeaux and the Sauternes. So this is where really this kind of a German Riesling craze began. German Riesling was already established and really well regarded word and over starting from the 19th century because of Rheingau. This is where the Riesling Riesling vineyards were really established, and then the wine industry around it really was built up. And stylistically speaking, the Rheingau Riesling tends to be weightier, as well as more concentrated than those produced in Mosel. So the way kind of people talk about it, again, this is a huge generalization. There are outliers within those regions, stylistically speaking, but in general, Mosel is the lightest of them all. of all those regions, in the Nahe, Rheingau, Rheinhessen, Mosel, Pfalz, all of that, it's the lightest. It's the most feather-light Riesling with this kind of really crystalline structure. If you ever taste, and this is kind of part of what I'm trying to do this month, is really do a side-by-side horizontal tasting of these Rieslings, just so that you can get a sense of how these regions are a little bit different. But Mosel Riesling has that really like clean, angular, light featherweight crystalline structure. And here, Rheingau, it gets a little bit fuller, weightier, more power, more related, more similar to just across the border in France, Alsace. Like Alsatian Rieslings are known for their like power and extract. And this is probably still much lighter than Alsatian Riesling. But compared out of all the German Riesling regions, Rheingau is probably the closest one to that power and structure that you're going to find in Alsatian Riesling. Probably the most famous Rheingau producer is Schloss Johannesburg. You might have Johannesburg. You might have heard of that producer. It's a, again, world-renowned producer. They were famous for being one of the very first, if not the first, adapters of Riesling variety in this region. And then they were also the first to discover the kind of botrytis-affected Riesling wine. So we've talked about, and we're going to talk about that in a sec. Actually, I'm going to pull it up right now. We talked about these predicate system, the quality German wine quality system that's ranked based on the must weight or ripeness level. As we get into Biernasse, let's say, and Trockenbiernasse, let's say, we're talking about botrytis, even also, let's say, but particularly Biernasse, let's say, and Trockenbiernasse. So we're talking about botrytis-affected grapes. The Schloss Johannesburg is the first one to really discover and make botrytis-affected Riesling wines in Germany. So this Rheingau region is really known for their botrytis-affected one, but these days really their dry, quote-unquote dry wines are really what they're known for, but still a very well-regarded region for Riesling variety. But just a little different, just bigger and more powerful. It really depends on preference. It's not necessarily Mosel is better than Rheingau, or Rheingau is better than Mosel. It's none of that. It really depends on your preference and stylistic preference. But just know that in general, Rheingau just a little bit weightier and more powerful. So this is a little bit different diagram than what I showed last week, and I thought this was visually a little simpler to understand than what I showed last week. But German wine classification system. So out in the biggest circle, this being the most amount of wine that's produced in that, the size of the circle represents amount of wine that's produced, and then amount of the area that it covers, which means in the wine world, the bigger area that the label or the appellation, the designation covers, quote unquote, the worse it is, right? The smaller the area, smaller the appellation, more specialized it becomes, like a single vineyard, more prized it is, right? So Landwein and D wine stands for Deutschwein, so German wine, or like a Landwein is basically German for table wine. So it covers the biggest circle. It covers the biggest land area because the grapes can come from anywhere within Germany, can come from any of those 13 Angebot, the wine regions that I showed you earlier, or even outside in declassified areas. So it can come from anywhere. After that this is where the German, and we talked about German government classification system versus a private classification system last week, right? So Qualitas Wein and Prädikas Wein are the German governmental classification system. So Qualitas Wein, or QBA, this is the wines that come from one of those 13 wine regions. So Rheingau, Mosel, Nahe, Pfalz, Baden, right? So all the grapes has come from that one of those places. It does have a small, more regulations in terms of how much yield you can get, how much extraction you can get out of the juice or the berries, how much press basically you can do. There are all these different winemaking requirements that go into it. They also have to submit a sample to a panel or like a committee, tasting panel, as well as a lab. to get this thing, the label. So Qualitas Wine is next. So it can come from any certain regions, but it's just regional wine. And then level up is Predicates Wine, which is Qualitas Wine. So from the region, plus it adds a basically the level categories based on the ripeness level or the must weight. So when the must weight being the must is the pressed juice after berries have been pressed, right? And how much sugar is in there. That weight, the lightest, when it has the least amount of sugar, is called Kabinett. A little bit sweeter is speculate. Even sweeter is oscillate. This is where botrytis starts to come in. Late harvest is late harvest. Speculate means a late harvest, essentially. Oscillate is when the botrytis starts to come in. Beer and oscillate even more. Chocolate beer and oscillate completely raisined, shriveled berries, essentially. Ice wine is when the wine has been frozen, allowed to hang long enough that it freezes, so all the water molecules get suspended, and then you press it just to get the concentrated juice. So this is a second kind of a higher level qualification, quality classification that the government, German government uses based on the ripeness level of the fruit. Now, on top of all of that, this is where you're going to see wines with that, the eagle symbol, which is in this month's box is a Gunderlock. If you look at the very capsule of Gunderlock bottle, you have that eagle with a grape bunch right in the middle. So all the VDP producers have that. This is a private association of about 200 producers. And then what they've done is they were not happy that the German government only ranked it by basically the region it comes from, and then according to the ripeness level of the berries, the fruit. Rather, they really wanted to rank the vineyards themselves, even within the region. Kind of like how Burgundy does, kind of like how a lot of the French governments do, particularly Burgundy. So they have a Gutswein, Ortswein. So this is like a village level, Gutswein. Ortswein is like a commune level. And then Erslage is Premier Cru, and then Grosslage is like Grand Cru. And Grossgewach is basically dry wine. It can only be dry. It can never be sweet. Grossgewach is a dry wine that comes from Grosslage, which is a Grand Cru vineyard site of Germany. These VDP wines, and you can see like down here is a very small printed. It says VDP is classified as a Qualitas wine, but has guidelines for both grade and regional quality designations, meaning in a government's eye, VDP, this private association, is really a matter of the Qualitas wine, because it only tells you, because the German government doesn't care about this vineyard class. They don't recognize this vineyard classification system. This is only done by this private association of 200 winemakers. So to them, whether it's a Premier Cru vineyard, it comes from a Premier Cru vineyard or a Grand Cru vineyard or a village level, commune level vineyard, they're all just Qualitas wine, meaning it comes from regional places. But VDP, they will also follow the Predicates Wine, their own system, which is that they will oftentimes put basically the name of the vineyard, name of the village, like the town, and then they'll oftentimes put the ripeness level as well. So like, for example, this is not a VDP wine, but it's basically following the exact same example. So if you look at the label, right, it says Weingut Karl Ehrhard, that's the producer. Rudesheim is the town that it comes from. Berg Roseneck is the name of the vineyard that the fruit comes from for this vineyard. And then it says Riesling, which tells you the grape variety, and Kabinett, it tells you the sweetness level. So this is a Predicates wine. This is not a VDP wine. Otherwise, it would have the eagle on it. So they only register their wines with the government organization, not necessarily with the VDP. But that's why it tells you that it is Kabinett, and it tells you where it's from, which is Rudesheim, which is a village within Rheingau. And then they even go further to tell you where the vineyard comes from, which is the Berg Roseneck. So in case, that's what I mean by deciphering German label can get little confusing just because there's so much that is kind of in between. Like, is this a private label? Is this a nationally recognized label or appellation? All of that you just kind of have to read between the lines. But oftentimes, the one thing that for sure you're going to see is this. So whenever you see this, just know that that's a VP. And anything outside of that, most likely, is going to be Qualtas for this out there. Here's some other sweetness level. So this is talking about ripeness level of the grapes, but there's also a designation for actual sweetness level and actual sugar left in the wine. So anytime you see the word trocken on the label, that means it's dry. Halbtrocken, Feinherb, that's in half dry, essentially. And then there's a lot of this is you're rarely going to see this, but this is getting into like much higher and much sweeter, like a dessert end wine. But you're going to see this word quite a bit if you want to German wine, Trocken, Halbtrocken, or Feinherb. So Feinherb, Halbtrocken, know that there's going to be some sugar on the wine. Trocken means it's going to be dry. So that's what that means. So who makes this wine? Let's talk about. These two. So Karl Ehrhard, this is his wife Petra Ehrhard. So it's a husband and wife team. He's kind of a fixture in this region in Rheingau. He's been kind of making wines in a natural way for some time. But for some reason, I don't really know why, he doesn't get a whole lot of limelight that other producers may get. Particularly here in DC region, I don't know, but yeah, his wines are always incredible, phenomenal. They farm about 10 acres, 90% of it being Riesling, 10% of it being spot Burgunder, the Pinot Noir, spread across 7 different vineyards around the town of Rudesheim, which is where they're based. So it is believed that in Rudesheim, the Cistercian monks who are credited with having founded the kind of wine industry in Burgundy, they are the one who brought Pinot Noir to Rheingau in 1135. The earliest record of Pinot Noir in Rheingau is 1470, but it's widely believed that it's the same kind of the religious order that brought Pinot Noir from Burgundy to Germany in here at first in Rheingau in 1135. The estate has been in the family since 1815, so they've been making wine for a long time. Karl took over the family estate in 1998 with his wife Petra, and then these two are the one who carry on the family tradition at this point. So they grew up in the family. This is a cellar. This is kind of when I say foudre, this is kind of what I'm talking about. These are kind of like gigantic, super old neutral barrels. These are kind of where the wines age. This is what the property looks like. I mean, you can tell that this property has been around since 1815. It looks like it's been around since 1815. This is what the vineyards actually look like. So this is the Rhine River. And this is where this is one of those 7 vineyards that they have. The shot from the top, as you can tell, there's always a growth in between. Tells you it's organic vineyard. It doesn't look as steep in the picture, but again, these vineyard sites are quite steep. Here's another shot of Rudesheim, the vineyard site around Rudesheim. Rotland is one of their vineyard sites. So imagine, like we saw some of the vineyard sites in Mosel that were terraced. Like none of these are terraced. And also, imagine how these rows are actually parallel to the slope of this hillside, as opposed to running horizontal. So imagine going up and down this thing, just multiple times a day trying to harvest. Those beer nuts, let's say, Trocken beer nuts, let's say, those are picked berry by berry because we are waiting for botrytis to affect them. So imagine going up and down this thing multiple times, just picking berries by berry by berry. I mean, it's a wild amount of work that you have to do to work in here. But basically, this is where these are some of the vineyard sites that where the fruit for this wine comes from. So this is 100% hand harvested biodynamic Riesling, planted between 1965 and 2008. So we're talking about as young as, I don't know, 15 years old, as old as, what is that, like 60? 60 years old. So there's some really old vines in here. Spontaneous fermentation in stainless steel tank first. Fermentation lasts about 7 weeks until the cold winter temperature stops the fermentation. And then the naturally left behind sugar, they filter out the rest of the wine so that they filter out the yeast essentially, and then bottle it with a dose of sulfites. It's basically what we get here. They do make single vineyard bottlings besides this as well. Those usually get some of that Fougera neutral barrel aging as well. But for us, what we're tasting today is 100% stainless steel, very steely, just very kind of a fresh, young kind of a thing. Before we get into the tasting, I've promised for you Riesling nerds that we're going to get into TDN a little bit. So immediately when you smell this wine, I don't know what you guys smell, but especially compared to last week's Riesling, there's a lot of this kind of like plasticky pool toy, what Ian Cobble in the Somme documentary calls freshly cut garden hose thing going on, like a fresh can of tennis balls. You know, like there's some of that kind of plasticky kind of a thing, right? Like a fresh umbrella when you first open up. That smell is caused by a compound called TDN, with TDN, which stands for, I'm gonna also put it in the chat box. So for those of you who are nerdy and geeky, you can go down this rabbit hole if you like. But it's 1,1,6-trimethyl 1,2-dihydronaphthalene is basically the name of that chemical. Other grapes have it too, by the way. Pinot Grigio, particularly Sauvignon Blanc has some of it, but Riesling, more than any other grapes, tends to have this just TDN. It's not actually TDN, it's actually the precursor to TDN. They just have it a lot, just naturally. According to this one study that I saw from 2012 from Cornell, Riesling showed that it has about 5 times as much the precursor of TDN than average of other varieties. Like I mentioned, it smells kind of like that pool toy, or what David Corlette describes as a new dildo smell. Is that right? It's got that kind of pool toyish kind of a thing, but it develops into this petrol, gasoline, gas station kind of a smell as it ages. You might have heard a lot of people who like Riesling has talked about like the petrol in their wine. That smell that you are getting right now, if this wine would be aged, it will turn a lot of that into that petrol smell. Like it already smells a little bit like petrol-y, but to me, this is a little more plasticky than it is petrol-y. But as it ages more, it will turn like a gas station. If you really want to see what TDN smells like, and when it's fresh as well as old, but particularly when it's fresh, Australian Riesling, particularly Clare Valley Riesling, is known to have even more TDN than German Rieslings. So get yourself a bottle of Clare Valley Riesling. Pikes is the one with it's everywhere. It's pretty easy to find. If you go to any store that carries Australian Riesling, especially from Clare Valley, they have a picture of a eel on the label. It's called Pikes Riesling. It's like Pikes eel. I guess it's grown a lot in Clare Valley. I don't know. But that one is it's a good wine to smell and taste if you want to get a sense of what Clare Valley Riesling tastes like. It's a very quintessential kind of textbook wine for that region. But it has shit ton of that TDN spilling out. So like most things, it's a matter of preference and dosage. At low level, it's quite pleasant. People seek it out even in Riesling. People who really are into Riesling, they really seek out this kind of TDN smell. In high dosage is considered a fault, just like almost everything in wine, right? It's a matter of dosage and preference. But regardless of dosage, some people just outright don't like it. For example, my old roommate and my dear friend Jacob Dusso hates TDN. He doesn't care for it, but so you be the judge whether you like that smell or not. That's up to you. It's not that one is better than the other. Precursors TDN that I was talking about is called carotenoid. They seem to be caused by sun exposure. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole today about TDN. This precursor carotenoids seem to be caused by sun exposure and water stress. So essentially things that we want in a quality wine or vine, which is that high, long UV exposure, as well as vines struggling to find water by digging deep into the ground. Those are all the things that cause carotenoids levels to rise in Riesling. So oftentimes the reason why people associate kind of that petrol smell with high quality Riesling is probably because it was grown on a steep slope where it got tons of UV ray exposure, and because it was grown on slate, just there was not much water because all that water was just drained out. So all that kind of raised TDN. So they just kind of became, not necessarily that TDN is what makes wine great, but it's just that they happen to correlate to the high level because the high exposure to sun as well as the water stress. But also, basically what happens is that carotenoids, which is the precursor, rises within Riesling, and then it's really during fermentation where that carotenoids becomes unbound and free and expresses itself as TDN in the wine, which is what gives this pultoid / later, when it's aged, a petrol smell. Also the factors like bottle age. I've always thought it was just the bottle age itself, but it's not just the age, it's the temperature as well as the oxidation level can also raise the level of TDN or expression of a TDN. So from one study that I read or saw, they were arguing that, again, this is not necessarily causation, but maybe it's correlation. But the wines that are bottled in a screw cap versus a cork tends to have a higher level of TDN because there's, I guess, a failure rate of the screw cap was higher than the cork. I don't know if I really trust that, honestly, because I don't know, the screw cap hasn't been around long enough to really test the stand of time versus cork. But anyways, at least this one study was saying that. So basically, if there's a more exposure to oxygen during aging and then higher temperature during aging, the TDN, that petrol smell, will likely increase within your bottle as well. While low to moderate level of TDN has been viewed as a positive aspect of Riesling, rising level of TDN is becoming a concern for a lot of German winemakers because of global warming. Like I mentioned, the sun exposure, temperature, and all of that. Because it's getting warm, a lot of German winemakers it's getting warmer and drier, and they're coming out with a different ways to kind of combat rising level of TDN. I think that I guess now they're worried that it's getting too high. So there's some things like trimming or leaf plucking during certain time of the growing season to make sure that the wine they're not getting super high level of exposure. But so they're experimenting around with that, but it is definitely one of the concerns for the winemakers from what I've heard and what I've read. So anyways, that was my deep dive into TDN today. So I figured I'll share that with you. You guys want to taste one? Who wants to take the appearance? Come on, somebody.
I can do appearance.
Yes.
I don't have a white piece of paper, but it's pretty, it's not totally clear, but it's mostly clear.
Yeah, I'll call this clear for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Intensity?
Pale.
Yeah, right. There's not a whole lot of color here, right?
No.
And Riesling is kind of like that. Like, I mean, especially young, youthful Riesling like this doesn't get a whole lot of color, picking out color. Yeah, I mean, if I were to me, it's like somewhere between pale and, I mean, I've seen wines that are even paler than this, but if I had to pick between pale and medium, I'll go towards pale versus medium. Like it is, there's not a whole lot of color here. What's the color?
I think it's kind of between lemon and gold, but
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna call this like, yeah, like lemon. Like I don't see a whole lot of gold here, like a really yellowish.
yeah,
But yeah,
but I don't see any green, so I guess
yeah,
yeah, it's just yeah.
I'm gonna call this pale lemon. Any other observations?
None of those things. Well, there's not a lot of legs, but I know we don't care about that.
Okay, cool. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the notes.
Does anyone want to volunteer?
Yes, I love doing the nose.
Excellent.
All right, Sarah Fuentes.
Also, I don't know if anybody has played today's Connections, but I got one of them thanks to Wine Club Nose.
The what?
The Connections, the New York Times daily game. It's like Wordle, but it's different.
Okay.
Or
What
there's
was it? Now I'm curious. What did you get? What happened?
so it's like you have to do the thing that everything has in common. So if you're playing today's Connections, don't listen. But it was anise, fennel, licorice, and what was the other one? Tarragon.
Uh-huh.
And the clue is they all plants with the same flavor. I mean, it's what they all have in common. But it's like that was a wine club lesson. It's like, oh yeah, these are all the same.
Basis.
Fun trivia.
Yesterday was dog breeds, and I got it immediately.
Nice.
Nice. Love it. All right. Nose.
This wine is clean.
This wine is clean. Sound. Intensity.
Medium plus. I feel pretty far off. I smell pretty far off.
Yeah. I mean, this is borderline pronounced. Like here, like give it a little swirl. And then I mean, like I'm here. Like that's super far.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call this pronounced.
And this may be like one of the few times we had pronounced.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is pronounced for sure. Aroma characteristics. What do you get?
I think I do get some floral.
Okay.
Like honeysuckle-y.
Yeah. Agreed. I do think there's some like floral quality here for sure. Green fruit?
Yeah, it's maybe some green apple, maybe some apple, green apple.
Yeah. Green apple. I get like a
Pear.
little green pear. Yep, exactly. I get all that. Citrus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of lemon.
Yeah, lots of lemon.
And peel,
Some lime as well.
maybe.
Peel. Yeah, peel, like the zest. Yep. Like to me, the Riesling is one of the few grape varieties where like I actually get lime. As well as also the quality of the citrus is a lot more zesty. It's like the peel rather than the flesh or the juice itself. So like to me, I get like kind of like zesty lemon zest, lime zest kind of a thing here. Lime zest particularly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also this is where I'm going to make a little comparison. Try to remember what last week's wine smelled like if you can. And for this month, really try to see if you can create some sort of sensory memory of your tasting and smelling. Because to me, sure, like last week, we also talked about some like green apple, maybe some flower and citrus for sure. But the type of citrus is different here. Like, to me, this is a bit riper. There's even like a orangey, like a kumquat-y kind of a thing here. Like,
You got Quince in the chat. Someone said.
Quince, yeah, Quince, yeah, exactly. Some of that. Which as opposed to last week, which is really like fresh.
Like lemonade, yeah.
Yeah, lemonade, that kind of stuff. But here we're getting like Quince, like kumquat, a little bit like Meyer lemon. Like it's a very different kind of
Pawpaw, maybe. I guess that's what I said.
pawpaw. Okay.
But
Any stone fruit? Any tropical fruit?
no tropical. Well, okay, stone. Not really. Or if it's
Yeah,
there,
me
it's
neither.
no stone
Yeah,
fruit.
it's way too cold here to really be getting stone fruit and tropical fruit. This really pops out when you start getting into warmer places. So yeah, like sometimes you come across Riesling from like the Napa Valley that will throw off a lot of tropical and stone fruit, but here, like Germany, is way too fucking cold.
Yeah.
Any red fruit, black fruit?
No,
Nope.
no.
Nature of the fruit.
Like you said, kind of ripe.
Yeah. It's beautifully ripe. To me, there's nothing like it is just like just it's like end of the spring, beginning of the summer kind of a thing. Here. It's really ripe, really expressive. Nothing overripe at all. If anything, maybe touch underripe, but like no, I wouldn't call it something. Like this is just like perfectly ripe. Like last week had a little bit of underripe kind of a quality to it. There's a little bit of herbaceousness, a little bit of that green kind of a thing. But this week, none of that. I don't get any green here. All right. Any herbaceousness, herbal?
I was gonna say actually a little bit of maybe tomato leaf.
Oh yeah, you got a little leafy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't get much leaf here. Like last week, definitely, and that's part
Wait,
of
let
what
me put it this way: it smells like my tomato candle, my tomato leaf candle. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't even know there was a tomato leaf candle.
Tomato candle, it's so good. Yeah.
Uh,
But that's pretty much it. Not real, maybe, and then maybe down to not white pepper. Oh yeah, maybe that's it. Wax and tomato. Yeah, maybe that's why it smells like this candle. Yeah. And then no, nothing down to like maybe some like wet stone, maybe like some minerality.
Yeah, for sure. I get stoniness all across here.
Yeah.
That slatey, like stone, all across. Like to me, this is like the quintessential German Riesling. Like this is exactly what German Riesling smells like to me. Like all the things that I look for in a German Riesling is like right here in the glass. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's really good.
Yeah. Secondary? Any tertiary?
No.
Me neither. I don't get any of the secondary here. Tertiary, this is way too young for it to be really getting to any tertiary yet. This petrol kerosene that we're talking about is not there yet. But definitely there's that TDS
Right, the
stuff.
pool toy.
The
Yeah.
pool toy, right? Like, I mean, it's not written anywhere here, but in other, this is where you would talk about it, which is not just a minerality, but like there's definitely very distinct kind of a pool toy thing going on here, for sure.
Yeah.
TDN, baby. Excellent. Good job. You get to pick the next person for a palette.
Thanks, that was super fun. Unless anybody wants to do it, I'm gonna ask Julia. Are you out? You're like shaking your head.
No, sorry. I was looking at some work, but I'm here.
All right, Julia.
I was just about to eat this Girl Scout cookie, which is probably gonna mess
I
things
was just in
up.
the nick of time.
I'll put it on pause. I'll wait to have my Samoa.
It probably will be
It wasn't on the
real,
pairing sheet.
yeah, it
Yeah.
probably will be real bad with this wine.
Yeah.
The I always trefoil, is that how you say it?
Well, which one is that one?
Trefoil, yeah.
It's like a shortbread cookie.
Oh, the
essentially.
shortbread. Yeah.
Yeah, that one may be okay. Or like a lemon.
Yeah, but I mean, who's buying those? I mean, come on.
I actually kind of like the
What's the
trefoil.
weight of a Girl Scout cookie?
Or trefoil. I don't
I
Julia,
think
Dude, I
it's like an
hereby-
iced butter cookie.
I hereby challenge you to pair the type of Girl Scout cookie that would go with the wine for each of
Yeah,
the
no.
wines that you.
I get this every year whenever Berg cookies come out, and I say, no, thank you. I'm good.
Come on, just one. Just give us one nugget of wisdom, of Girl Scout cookie wisdom.
Just drink some pork. Drink some pork.
Yeah. Yeah, I have really strong opinions about Girl Scout cookies, so
Oh,
They're not
all right.
they're not all good. They're
No,
not.
I mean your opinions aren't all good.
No, my opinions are correct.
We should talk about these in the after hours. I want to hear about your Girl Scout cookie opinion.
All right.
All right, sweetness.
It's off dry, I can tell you that.
Yeah, there's some sugar in here.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm gonna piss some people off or annoy some people. Annoys me. So I know the actual RS level in this thing because this one has some actual tech information, came with the tech information, or as I have to find the tech information. But this is where I get really annoyed with the grit, right? By all means, just from perceptually speaking about this wine, I'll call this off dry myself because the acid on this thing is so ripping that it doesn't come off all that sweet. But the actual RS level on this thing is like
Okay.
35 grams per liter.
Cool. So that would be medium.
It would push it all the way to like medium dry.
Oof.
Yeah. But honestly, if I were to call this medium dry on an exam, I don't know if I'll get it. Which is what annoys me.
Yeah.
Because the power that be, which is who grades and create this grid, they don't have this clear thing like dries from 0 to 10 or off dries 11 to
Right.
19. Like they don't have that. It's very much based on also
Like, what do you
perceptual.
feel?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so much of that is that it's not just the sugar, but it's also acid here. So I 100% agree with you. I would also call this off dry if I got this blind, but I know that there's 35 grams per liter, which will most likely, for most wines, will put it squarely in medium dry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's annoying.
Yeah.
Annoying. Exactly. Vibes-based grid. Fucking vibes. Also, if I have to hear that word vibes one more time from people, I'm gonna fucking shoot myself. Why are there so many people using that word vibes these days? It's like it's just vibes, just feeling like the
Gen Z's messing us up. I mean.
oh my God, Jesus Christ. All right. Acidity. So now that I've given away acidity, let's talk.
Yeah, it is medium plus.
Or high. Yeah, it's pretty ripping.
Like my vein is about to pop off on my neck. Like this shit is tart. Yeah, I'm gonna call this high acid.
Okay.
Tannin, obviously we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah,
Alcohol. What do you think the alcohol in this thing is?
I don't know. It's really hard for me to tell between the sweet and the
Yeah, 'cause
acid.
it's got body from the sugar. I don't know. Is it like
No, it's probably low.
11?
But feel the warmth. Like what does it feel like? Does it feel pretty warm or?
Doesn't feel that warm.
Me neither. And just as in general, unless you're drinking shitty German Riesling that's been chaptalized, meaning sugars have been added to the mess. If you're drinking QVA, pretty cast wine, chaptalization is not allowed. VDP definitely chaptalization is not allowed. So this is just natural sweetness that's in the wine, that's left in the wine. The sugar,
Lower. Yeah.
it has to be lower if there's sugar,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
all that sugar has to
But then, yeah.
to be higher alcohol. So I'm willing to bet this is probably like what, 9%? Yeah, 9%.
Ooh,
Okay.
So I'm gonna call this low.
this is juice.
And then body.
I mean, it's medium plus, medium.
Medium.
Yeah. I'm gonna call this medium. Yeah. And that's what I want to point out, like, which is last week we called our wine medium minus. This week we're moving to medium. And this is kind of what I mean, like Rheingau versus Mosel. Mosel is like feather, right? Even though there's a sugar on it, it's just really just feather white. And then Rheingau just gets that kind of extra power and all of that. And it's not just necessarily the sugar itself either. Sugar definitely adds to that, but just as a whole, just a fruit here just gets a little more weightier, and the wine here gets weightier and all of that. Mousse we don't have to talk about, obviously. Flavor intensity.
Medium plus, I would say.
Yeah, I'm gonna call this medium. Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll call this medium plus as well. I mean, borderline pronounced, but I think I would land on medium plus here right now as well. Do you confirm everything that Sarah pointed out? Is there anything else that stuck out for you?
No, I mean, I think I get everything that we called out on the nose.
I mean, I think the one, I mean, I know you said the thing about stone fruit, but I mean, I could get a little bit of apricot, like,
Yep.
yeah, on the taste.
Yeah, I mean, I can get some little peach here. Like I can get beyond that.
Yeah.
For sure. The it's weird. Like now that you mentioned peach or apricot, like I get like peach ring. It's not like a actual fruit, but it's like a
yeah, maybe it's like like a candied or or like a dried apricot maybe or something. Yeah.
I personally confirm everything. I think everything that Sarah called out on the nose is like that on the little floral touch, the quince, the green apple, the lemon lime zest. I think that peach ring kind of a thing, maybe some stone fruit. No, none of these really expressive, ripe, fresh fruit. Nothing green for me. And then the wet stone. The TDN is definitely here. One thing I'll also make a note is the mouthfeel. There's definitely a lot of dissolved CO2 in this wine. There's some of the prickle that's going through your tongue. And that's to be expected when you're getting a super young, like stainless steel made wine. So just really steely. I think it's adding to the kind of a textural component of this wine, which I kind of like. No secondary, no tertiary, very much primary driven here, but a lot of intensity. Honestly, I may almost go pronounce on the flavor here. Like this is not shy. Like it's super expressive.
Right.
Finish. How long is that finish?
It's at least medium plus.
Yeah.
It lasts for a while.
Definitely medium plus. I agree with you. I don't go all the way too long, but yeah, I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. Conclusion. Let's take it home. How good is this wine? Balanced?
I think it's very good. So it's like so it's like pretty complex in terms of the primary flavors. Flavor we said was medium plus or intensity.
Pronounced on the nose, like medium plus, pronounced on the palate. Concentration wise is definitely there.
Yeah.
Length, we called it medium plus. Complexity wise, we call that flower, green fruit, citrus fruit, some stone fruit, slate, some of the TDN stuff, but all in primary, nothing secondary, tertiary, just all primary fresh fruit. So what would you call that? Like, I don't know, medium, bordering on medium plus? I don't know. But there's quite a few things within the primary. So yeah, somewhere between medium plus for the complexity. So balanced, medium plus to pronounced concentration, medium to medium plus concentration, complexity, and then medium plus finish. So when you take a average all of that, you just kind of end up somewhere around medium plus, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I'll call this very good as well. Would you age this one?
I mean, you could.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of really nice fresh flavor now.
Yeah.
I don't know how long, I'm not a Riesling guy. I don't know how long you can age it. I don't know. But like in 5 years, I'd be super curious. I don't know what would happen in 10 years.
Yeah.
That would be too much.
So, were you gonna say something, Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, it was good. My question would sort of be like, would you buy like a cabinet, you know, like this like a level, I mean, or maybe even like a higher quality, whatever, I don't know. Like, would you buy a cabinet specifically to age it, or are people buying it to drink? You know, I mean, you can, but I don't know.
It's both. I mean, some people age it, some people don't. It depends on your preference again. Um, but knowing how well Riesling can age, I mean, it's got all the hallmark, right? Like, I mean, this we call it high acid, just ripping at acidity in the back. It's got pronounced concentration. It's got plenty of things. Strong backbone, plenty of muscle for it to hold on to and to develop over time. And then, so all that kind of complexity we've only had in primary, it's going to turn into secondary, tertiary. A lot of TDM that's popping out now is going to turn into petrol that we're talking about, adding more complexity. So I think it is an excellent candidate for aging. Knowing how well Riesling can age, I would say this can probably go for another 8, 10, maybe. But I think coming back here, and I said this when I tasted this with my rep, is like, can you imagine how good or how much better this wine will be in, let's say, 5 years? Like, this still is so fresh and so young, which is delicious. I think you can drink it now. And that's the thing about this wine. I think this is like, I say this can age beautifully over 10 years, but I think it would be delicious at every stage along that evolution. I think it's delicious now for
like,
freshness.
yeah, I guess that my question, like in 5 years, we would expect, would like the residual sugar sort of chill out a little bit, and then
no, the
wine,
the sugar will be the same. Like, the sugar doesn't necessarily change, but what I would expect it to happen is that a lot of these primary that we're talking about, just the fresh and everything,
right,
some of the nature will change.
Right.
So now, instead of getting just fresh lime and lemon zest, maybe we'll start getting a little bit of, I don't know, like dried out lemon peels, or maybe we're getting more like a riper, like a Meyer lemon and more orangish kind of a thing that's coming out. This petrol thing that we're talking about, a lot of fresh pultoy will turn into a little more petroly, and all of that.
That's not a big draw for me. More.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for, again, it's a strictly a preference thing. It's not that one that gets better. It's not that older wines are necessarily better than younger wines. It's just, again, it's more rare because there's less of it. And then,
right.
And I always say it's a completely a preference thing. Not all wines. I mean, they're delicious old wines, but some wines are just better as a young, fresh wines. They're not meant to be aged. But this wine, I think, in 5 years, especially for those of you who are into Rieslings and like petrol and all of that, I think this is going to start spitting out some of that petrol, a lot of this like really bright primary fruit, and then intense primary fruit is going to switch some of its character to a little bit of tertiary. Maybe it will dry out a little bit, or maybe just a completely different kind of a ripe character. Nature of it will pop up. But overall, I think this is delicious now, but it can age up to 5-10. I will first come back and check it in 5. But honestly, even if along the way, if you want to pop one open, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I'll be very happy to drink this at any time along that 10-year journey, honestly. So that would be my call with this one. Cool. Good job. Any questions?
So this is kind of the first ageable screw top I've encountered. Does that impact the aging in any way?
I mean, I've heard and read many things, different opinions about screw tops. Also, I have personally never had any screw top wines that have been aged longer than like 8 years. I think 8 is the oldest I've ever had screw top wines, but it was fine. I mean, I wouldn't think that anything went wrong or it aged faster because it's screw top. I've heard like that study that I was telling you about earlier, like that one study was saying that there's more higher elevated level of TDN found in screw cap wines because during storage, it was exposed to more oxygen. Is that actually true? I don't know. Are they just saying it happened because of screw top? Is there some bias there? Maybe, I don't know. But there's also some people who say screw top is in fact a superior enclosure for aging than it is for cork, because cork can fail, as opposed to screw cap is less likely to fail. So I don't know. I've seen opinions on one side from the other side many different ways. Only thing I guess that would show is the actual aging of the wine. Like one was in a cork enclosure, the other one is a screw cap, aged at exactly the same location, same time, to see what happens to the wines. But such experiment has not been done, nor has screw cap being around long enough to really even stand that test of time against the cork. So that's why. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe screw caps fail after 10 years. Who knows? Maybe not.
How is it possible that that experiment hasn't been done? Like, it's a huge industry. We have, there's no shortage of, interested parties.
I don't know. Maybe it has been done. I just haven't seen it. I haven't heard anything. I feel like there would be some crazy, it would be written up in like wine publications all over. It would be a news in the wine world, but I haven't seen it. I don't know. Maybe it's just like some people, like if you're making wine that's gonna age 20, 30 plus years, like maybe they have too much pride to put screw cap on their wine. They're like, we're not doing that. I don't know. Just a speculation. Any other questions? Just out of curiosity, how many of you guys like this wine? Did anybody not like this one? Julia?
It's just, I mean, I just still have a problem with the residual sugar. And I know I'm like trying to put myself in the headspace of like, objectively it's good. Like I get it. Like if I had like really spicy Indian food with this, I would really like it.
Yeah.
And I would go with it really well. But like kind of drinking it on its own is still a little too sweet for me, even with all the acid.
That's an interesting. Why do you think that is? But you also drink cocktails.
Yeah, but I also don't like very sweet cocktails.
Correct, but I can show you.
And there's a lot more booze in the cocktails.
Okay, so is that what
this is just like this is just juice.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most common thing that we hear about, not only just Riesling, but just any wine with a residual sugar in America. And oftentimes I just find it fascinating because cocktails often have 70, 80 grams per liter of sugar in there. So how is it that 35 comes up?
I want like one cocktail.
Right.
And then like, I'm not going to drink cocktails all night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I will drink beer or wine all night. I'm not going to drink. I'm not just going to have cocktails all night. And so like, I feel like it's like having more than 4 ounces of this is like a little.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a glass. But yeah. And it's also hugely food specific as well. I mean, just like wine in general, I think it's just better with food and food is better with wine. So yeah. Okay. Any comments about last week versus this week? Is there anything that sticks out to you guys? Like this week was so different from last week in this regard and whatnot? Anything sticks out to you?
I think I like this one a lot better than last week. I think this I like the acidity more in this, and I feel like the heavier body over the like lightness of the Mosel, like
Okay,
just played better.
Last week's seemed way too sweet. I totally agree, Julia, that it's like last week's I was like, I would only have this with spicy food and like only one glass.
Yeah.
This is much more drinkable to me.
It's also hard to judge.
This is still fairly sweet.
Glenn started daycare like less than a month ago, and we've been sick ever since, and are like slowly recovering. So like I was pretty congested and sick last week, so that could have affected my enjoyment. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Any other comments? All right. Let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this is on a retail shelf? And how much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? Predicate's fine from Rheingau, Kabinett, right? Old producer. We called it very good. Some ageability. So I still have last week's wine open. This is still drinking just fine. It's lost some concentration. It's lost its aromas, but it's so much savorier. All right, 32, 20, 20, 35, 20, 20, 30, 25, 20, 20. Wow, all right. This wine on the retail shelf would be $23.50. So compared to last week's $33.75, I think this is a fucking deal. Right? Like the fact that this concentration, good complexity, really easy to drink, ageable, is coming in at under $25 is awesome. And that's part of the reason I love Carl Ehrhard. Like, I don't understand why his wines are not really like more expensive or more sought after. Like his 22 vintage, this exact same bottle, the Berg Roseneck, got like, not that, you know, I care about the points or points mean anything, but like wine enthusiasts gave him like 93 points, 94 points or something like that. But again, at under $25 for a single vineyard, not to mention, single vineyard Predicate's fine wine. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So yeah. Any questions?
Un, I'm really sorry I had to show up late. Did you already talk about the bottle shape?
Have not talked about the bottle shape.
Is there a reason why it's skinny and pointy?
Just a German tradition. I don't know how they ended up there. I did talk about it last week when I apologize for the general bottle shapes of this month because they're all absurdly annoying. Because you can't quite fit them in the fridge door, right? So you gotta fucking lay them on the side in the fridge, which is really annoying. And
They are overlapping with other things.
Do German like refrigerators have like, are they more able to fit Riesling bottles? Like that seems like a fit would be a failure of like Siemens and other German producers.
Who knows? I know for such a engineering minded, you know, people and country, very precise. People
Actually,
like
maybe that's why, because their fridges are so small.
Yeah, maybe.
And so the doors have like a tall berth, but a very narrow depth. Just spitballing here.
Yeah, who knows? But also this particular bottle, Carl Ehrhard's bottle, is particularly annoying tall. Like when I packed this, like it couldn't fit in the case, the box. So it was sticking out. Like just the top of it was sticking out. Like it couldn't go in. So yeah, I don't know. It's just the way it is. It's always been. Traditionally, however, the last week's color, so this, I don't know if you guys can see the color, this kind of greenish color, greenish bluish color of the bottle. That's the original OG color of the Riesling bottle. You see just as much brown bottle color now in Riesling, but what you saw last week, that kind of like bluish green bottle is the original original bottle. Yeah.
This is probably untrue, but somewhere I had read an article about the shape being going back to the fact that it is German, like how to maximize the number of bottles that would fit on like the typical river barge. Like that was the shape was like the width of the bottle was narrower and they could get more bottles on the barges.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, who knows, but
maybe. I don't know. I don't know the story, but yeah. Dave, as a fellow Riesling head, what did you think about this wine and TDN and all of that?
I like this one a lot. I like this more than the last week's Mosel. I thought that I think it was an objectively a better wine and maybe more kind of regional benchmark. I've had other Mosels that I've liked significantly more than last week's, and I didn't think this one. I mean, like, yeah, there's TDM, but it didn't seem that high to me. Like it was quite enjoyable.
Of course, it didn't.
I do also think though that this one would go. I actually would. I don't know. I would maybe 10. I think.
I think it can easily go 10 for sure.
It's got the concentration.
Yeah.
And
then acid. Yeah. For sure.
I was actually thinking earlier that I don't remember when we did it. Those the 2017 Würzburgs.
Yeah.
That we did whenever that was, like a long time ago.
Yeah.
I still have a bunch of those I want to go back to because those were like weirdly prematurely aged. Yeah. And I'm curious now. I'm part of me is a little nervous that they've like completely fallen apart.
Right.
But maybe they're phenomenal. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'll let you know when I
maybe this is that search I was telling you about earlier because I believe
they're screw cap.
They're screw caps, right? So maybe there's some truth to that, or maybe there's some exposure to oxygen that made all that TDN to develop. The color on that wine was much golder, which tells me that it probably has some oxygen exposure. So maybe.
Or they kept it in like a hot crate somewhere.
Or they kept it in hot. Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was a hot temperature. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, okay, cool. Did anybody not like this TDN smell? This pool toy, garden cut hose, new dildo, tennis balls? Did anybody like not care for it? Did you have like a version to it? Did anybody? Oh, nobody? Really? Interesting. Okay, cool. Well,
you said so. Carl Ehrhard, he also plants Pinot Noir. Is that what you said? How are his Pinots?
I have not tried his full Pinot. I've tried his Pinot Rosé, and it's fucking banging. It's awesome. I almost put that wine in the Thanksgiving box in November or October, but I ended up going something different, but it's really good. So if the quality of fruit for that rosé is that good, I can only imagine how good their Pinot Noir is. Yeah. Put the Pinot Rosé on Facebook? Okay, sure. If it's in stock, I'll for sure put it on. Let me make a note. He also has a higher than single bottling, but it's also fermented at fully dry. So maybe this is for you, Julia, but fully fermented at dry Trucken bottling. So maybe worth trying that. Yeah. Also, now, I mean, unless everybody has a burning wine questions, and not to say we can't come back to wine questions, I would love to hear Julia's Girl Scout cookie opinion. And I will turn off the recording.